Now, joining me is former Clinton Labor Secretary Robert Reich. He's a professor at the University of California at Berkeley, and he's also the author of Aftershock. All right, Secretary Reich, I want to play you a clip by President Obama because there was a bill introduced earlier in the year to actually stop the subsidies for offshoring jobs, and it didn't pass. The Republicans killed it, and here's what the president had to say about it.
The Republicans in Washington claimed to draw their ideas from a website called America Speaking Out. It turns out that one of the ideas that's drawn the most interest on their website is ending tax breaks for companies that ship jobs overseas. The funny thing is, when we recently closed one of the most egregious loopholes for companies creating jobs overseas, Republicans in Congress were almost unanimously opposed. The Republican leader, John Boehner, attacked us for it and stood up for outsourcing instead of American workers.
Secretary, is that right? I mean, that seems so unbelievably egregious.
Well, Cenk, when you said a moment ago that this is the United States of corporate America, or at least that's what it seems, that's egregious enough. I mean, big corporations are arguing in terms of getting more tax breaks or getting a tax holiday that they need it in order to have an incentive to create jobs in the United States. But most big corporations now have plenty of money. Their corporate profits are higher than they've been in years. In fact, big corporations are now sitting on almost $1 trillion worth of cash. They're not creating jobs in the United States. They're creating jobs abroad.
So, you know, the fact that they killed a bill that would have stopped the, the loophole that allows them to get a subsidy for offshoring, I mean, I feel like that's such a no-brainer for the Democrats. I almost want to pull a Jon Stewart and just do this whole show and the next show and the next show after that about that. How did the Democrats blow that? Why don't they take advantage of that and tell the American people what's happening?
Well, there are a lot of no-brainers for the Democrats when it comes to corporate malfeasance or nonfeasance. Cenk, one of the problems, and I don't want to tar all Democrats with this, but at least some Democrats, with regard to campaign donations, are drinking at the same trough as Republicans. They're going to big corporations. Earlier this year, the Supreme Court, you remember, said in one of the worst Supreme Court decisions in history, in Citizens United against the Federal Election Commission, that corporations are people, and they're entitled to provide as much money to campaigns and to politicians as they want. Otherwise, their First Amendment rights would be breached. Well, you can't have it both ways. You said earlier, and I agree with you, that corporations are not people. They are just machines. They are just designed to maximize profits. If we actually treat them as people and say that they have First Amendment rights to undermine and corrupt our politicians and our political process, then we're really in trouble because they don't really represent America and Americans.
Well, they keep calling them American companies or even corporate America, but do these so-called American companies have any obligation to America?
Well, unfortunately, they don't. I mean, these global corporations have a primary obligation under the law and also in terms of economics to their shareholders, to maximize shareholder returns. That's what, under American capitalism, corporations are supposed to do. They're not obligated to maximize jobs. And it turns out these days the most rapidly growing markets are in China, India, Brazil, several other rapidly growing markets. And so American corporations are over there, not only selling, but also creating jobs. Not here.
Yeah, and the thing is, I don't want people to get me wrong. I actually don't think that's crazy or bad. I get why businesses want to start factories in China and why they're using India for labor, et cetera. I understand that. But what drives me crazy is the idea that we should be subsidizing that.
Exactly.
I mean that's...
Cenk, I couldn't agree with you more. In other words, corporations should be, according to the way we've organized capitalism, maximizing shareholder returns, maximizing profits. So they should be going all over the world. But there is no reason for us, taxpayers, to be subsidizing those corporations and then those corporations taking those subsidies or those tax breaks and using them for creating jobs all over the world. Makes no sense at all.
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to ask you the question that we always run into here. What can we do about it? Because it seems like the politicians, honestly, a lot in both parties, certainly the Republicans are a wholly owned subsidiary of multinational corporations, but the Democrats are partly owned, as you explained. How do we get beyond it when they've already bought the politicians?
Well, what we have to, I think all of us get serious about campaign finance reform. I mean, eyes glaze over. It's not an exciting topic. We'd much rather talk about holding on to health care and everything else. But unless we actually stem the flow of corporate money into American politics, everything we want to do, everything we believe in is jeopardized.
Secretary Reich, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Cenk. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, too.